Hello and welcome to another one of my thoughts videos. So we have established that unicorns were a creation of our own body. The very first one that was ever made, our bodies made it, and from there on after, any replication or mutation of it was done by our body, in our body. And what are they actually? Well, they are those little packages with the messages inside. They're dead, they have no life, they have no mitochondria, no nucleus, no nothing. They're just a dead object that floats around your body and supposedly replicates. Now, I said in the last video, there is another thing that looks extremely like a unicorn that actually is something real in our body, and it looks like this. It's a message, and in it, I'm in a package, and in it is the message, right? Now, what is that? This is the place where maybe in the future this video will be deleted because it's terminology that you need to know about, that they're not censoring at the moment because nobody knows about it. But as soon as they figure out that people are finding out about their ploy or their lie, they may start deleting this sort of information as well. They're called exosomes. Now, there is something, basically they are a package that our bodies create, and they have messages of DNA, RNA, that our body, when it needs to communicate with other cells in our body, writes a message from our nucleus DNA, writes the appropriate instructions, messages, puts it in the container, a protein covering container, copies them by the millions and sends them out into the bloodstream. Now, because they are dead and have no will of their own, they have no movement mechanisms or anything, they're just like a letter like this. They float around in the body until they find the right address that's written on it. And that cell that says, oh, that's for me, I'll bring that in, and it opens it up and it acts on the instructions. It's called an exosome. Now, during the event that we had over the last few years, and we were locked down and stuff, when people started to mention the similarity between these two, the experts got onto it. The expert anti-propaganda, what do you call it, the counter-propagandists would say, oh no, they're only garbage bags, because there are two kinds of exosomes and you need to understand that. One are these messages, exosomes, and the others are garbage bag exosomes. And I'll show you that now, how they are made. Normally we have a cell in our body. The cell has a nucleus where all the DNA and RNA, or the DNA, resides. It has this thing called an endoplasmic reticulum, which is the transport system within the cell. You have these energy things, which are the mitochondria, dotted about the place, which does the respiration, and all the decision making is done as a whole. There are vacuoles, which are holes that are basically bubbles that have water in them, and there's other bits and pieces there occasionally too. So when the thing is functioning properly, you're going to get a bit of junk that that happens, and so the cell then gets all that junk and puts it into a little bubble, and then it moves that bubble to the surface, to the membrane of the cell, and with all the garbage in it, and then it buds that off, it bulges out, and pop, it throws out like a garbage bag full of junk for other cells to come along and gobble it up and disassemble it and get rid of it. The ones that specialize in that sort of thing and recycle the materials. Now, those are called extracellular exosomes. Now, those are the ones that we are allowed to know about to discredit any possibility that they would resemble unicorns at all. But there is another kind that they don't tell you about, is that when the cells need to communicate with other cells, they create a vacuole, and then they build a package. Then the cell replicates or writes code from the DNA into RNA or DNA sometimes, transports it there, and then fills up that package, and then it moves to the cell membrane, and then it spits them out, and there you have what you call, the first one is called an that's an extracellular, means the outside of the cell. It throws these garbage bags out. And these ones are called intracellular, cellular exosomes. Now that means they're made, intra means inside. They are message packages, those things built in a vacuole, filled with instructions and then spat out, so that they are now floating around by the millions. When a cell with the right address on it receives one of these to the surface, it reads the address, the markers, and then it brings it in, unpacks it, reads the DNA that's in it, or RNA, and acts upon it through the whole functioning of the whole cell. These are intracellular exosomes, and those are the ones they will never or not tell you about. And they look exactly the same as your unicorns. Now, one big problem that the unicornologists have is that when they want to isolate their unicorn, they take a sample from up your nose or on your shoe or wherever it might be, which isn't even in your body. Then they put it into a soup, and there's lots of them all mixed together like this with exosomes, bacteria, all sorts of things, and they spin it round so that the nasty bits like this fly off, and we just get these things left, and they suck them up a tube, and they've got them, all the things that look like this. Now, you notice there's something very similar between the two, the unicorn and the exosomes. Well, they're exactly the same size, shape, molecular weight, everything about them is exactly the same, so they can't actually separate them out. So they open up the exosome and read the message, and they say they supposedly open up the unicorn and read the messages, and say that because they found a message from an exosome, they say they've discovered a new, or they've discovered a unicorn. As you can see, the absurdity of that. An exosome is exactly the same as what they tell us a unicorn is. Now, an exosome is written by our body for the benefit of our body. This unicorn, which is fake and fictitious, that looks exactly the same as the other in every respect, they say somehow the unicorn is different from the exosome. Well, in my logical thinking, the unicorn doesn't exist. They're all exosomes.